With Donovan Mitchell available for trade, the big question is which team does he land on? And many signs point to him going to the New York Knicks, although I don't really understand that, but I already recorded a video about that. And if he doesn't go to the Knicks, what team would be willing to put a package together to go acquire Donovan Mitchell? Now, there are a lot of teams in the league that possibly would, but assets and things like that for a rebuilding Utah Jazz team, right? They're going to want very specific things. I mean, obviously, if they can swap stars, then maybe, but it depends on the age of the star, things like that. Very likely they want draft picks, which is the reports that are coming from the Utah Jazz's side, that they want a, bevy of draft picks, a sort of Keen's ransom in that regards, kind of like what they got with Rudy Gobert for Donovan Mitchell, because they're a team that's going to rebuild. So the more draft picks and assets that they can accumulate, the better it would be, and they can start this rebuild. And then if they hit on 2 or 3 guys, well, then you can package everything else and go get another star to add to them. Or if you're kind of like, hey, we're kind of a piece away, let's go get this like disgruntled star over here. Maybe he's the missing link. That's usually how these rebuilds go. But one team that comes to mind that would make a lot of sense for Donovan Mitchell and could actually put a package together that could entice Utah and allow Donovan Mitchell to go to a contender, and specifically a team that was just in the finals, would be the Boston Celtics. Now, Donovan Mitchell would make all the sense in the world for the Celtics. And many of you might be thinking, like, why? They have Jason Tatum, they have Jaylen Brown. Yes, but they would benefit heavily from another consistent go-to scorer. We saw in this playoffs that Jason Tatum is very hit or miss, and he kind of takes himself out of the games at times and can be very inconsistent. And the guy that kind of just stepped up in the fourth quarter was Jaylen Brown. But if you have a guy in Donovan Mitchell who can, provide that scoring punch need be, it would also take a lot of pressure off of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It would benefit both of them tremendously. Jason Tatum, he's a guy that I think could, if he changed his mentality, could be one of the best, if not, arguably top 3, top 5 players in the league. He just is so talented and so skilled. He just doesn't have that Jaylen Brown mentality. Like, Jaylen Brown believes he is the best player on the court at all times. It doesn't matter who it is. And we've seen Jason Tatum kind of get in his head and just say, sometimes I don't know if I'm the guy. I don't really know if I'm that kind of leader. And we saw him just be completely absent in the NBA Finals. And some of those games, if they would have just give me 10 points, just give me like a couple baskets, Jason Tatum, and he just didn't deliver. But if you had a guy like Donovan Mitchell, that could have very likely changed the outcome of this past NBA Finals. And then, again, it takes so much pressure off of Tatum. Maybe he would perform better because he doesn't feel like, I have to go and get 30 tonight. I have to go get 25. You got a guy in Donovan Mitchell who could do that. Yes, Donovan Mitchell is a little undersized, but the Celtics have everything defensively to make up for Donovan Mitchell. Not just that, but Donovan Mitchell was known as a defender out of Louisville and came into the league not as a scorer, but as a defensive-minded guard. So I do believe that the defense is still inside of him. He was just on a Utah team where he had to do everything. He had to score 25 to 30 a game. He had to give out all the assists. He had to score, in bunches. He had to exert himself on the offensive end so heavily. And then you want him on top of that to guard, the best player or guard, even just a mid-tier guy. It's so much that he'd have to do. But if he's on a team where he doesn't have to score 30 points a night for his team to even have a chance, then it would be hugely beneficial to him, and he could exert some of that energy on the defensive end. But beyond that, even if he is just a terrible defender, you have Jason Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown, you have Robert Williams down there, you have Grant Williams, you have all these guys that can really make up for the lack of defense that Donovan Mitchell has. And it doesn't hurt to have just that dominant scorer that can that's all you need from him. Facilitate, get your 5 to 7 assists or whatever, and then go get us 15 to 20 a night, or 20 to 25 a night. Let's make that happen. Also, like I said, it would help to alleviate Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, because right now, they have to play essentially 40 minutes a night for the Celtics to win. But if you have a guy in Donovan Mitchell, now they don't have to play as much. They don't have to, play 35 to 40 minutes a night. You can cut their minutes essentially in half, because you could always have one of those go-to scorers on the court at all times. I just think it makes a world of sense if you're the Boston Celtics. But what would a trade package look like? I would imagine for starters, you got to go with Marcus Smart. It's going to be something centered around him. Marcus Smart, as great as he is, the defensive player of the year, all of those things, he's a guy that the Celtics showed that when Marcus Smart gets you 15 to 20 a game, the Celtics win. I mean, it's ridiculous, the stats. I think they have like a 90% win rate or something like that when Marcus Smart scores 18 points or more. So if you had that consistent guy that could night in and night out get you 18 points a game, what does that mean for the Celtics? Yes, you're losing his defense, but you have plenty of defense. You don't have that third consistent scorer. And the big question would be fit, right? Would they be able to work? Would they be able to figure it out? But Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell, they're friends. There was even a report a while back that Tatum was pushing for Donovan Mitchell. I didn't really dive into the report that much. I just kind of saw it in passing, so I can't confirm how real that was or anything like that. But it would make sense, to go get that. Jason Tatum wanted Bradley Beal, and he wanted him, because he's his friend, but also to have that consistent scoring option. So I imagine it's going to be centered around Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart also becomes a lot more expendable because you got Brogdon. I think that if they didn't have Brogdon, it kind of hurts, but Brogdon kind of provides you the same thing Marcus Smart gives you. The only difference is that Brogdon, you have questions about, just health and his injury history. But if he can be healthy and he can be consistent, Malcolm Brogdon provides you exactly what Marcus Smart did. And maybe a little better scoring and shooting wise. I could see you making that argument, but so Marcus Smart, I just think, becomes a lot more expendable. So you're thinking Marcus Smart, probably J.D. Davison, maybe like a Peyton Pritchard, and maybe like a Luke Cornett. And then, you throw in 4 or 5 draft picks, and you're probably winning the championship. I mean, which team would be better? Assuming they could figure it out, assuming that, everyone's healthy, stuff like that, like all the stars align. Who's a better team than the Celtics with Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown? And you still have Robert Williams. You still have Brogdon. You still have Gallo. You still have, the other Williams, Grant Williams. And, you still have all the pieces you need to contend and be a championship team. I mean, two of the 4 assets that you're losing, you didn't even have on your roster last year, right? And Marcus Smart would be a tough loss, but you're making up for that in Donovan Mitchell. Plus, you have Brogdon that makes Marcus Smart a lot more expendable. And then Peyton Pritchard, he's great, but he's not a star. He's your 7th, 8th guy off the bench. So if you could put a package together that's something like that, maybe your young guys turn out to be something, but again, how much playing time are they going to get on the Celtics team that is trying to be a contender, that's trying to win championships? I think Donovan Mitchell on the Boston Celtics makes all the sense in the world. I think, you have your 2 big wings, right? You have Jaylen Brown, you have Jason Tatum. They're going to guard the 2 best players night in and night out. So Donovan Mitchell, he doesn't have to guard. He's going to guard the 3rd or 4th option offensively. He's going to guard the guy that's just standing in the corner waiting to shoot, catch and shoot threes. That's who Donovan Mitchell is going to guard. So you don't need him to be a defensive player of the year. You just need him to come in and get you his 20 points a game. And, just be serviceable. At least put a hand up, man. It's not that difficult. You have the 2 wings. You have the dominant center. You have all these pieces that you need. You have Al Horford still. I mean, you could literally put out a team of Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, and Robert Williams. I mean, that is, in my opinion, the best starting 5 in the entire league. Seriously, that team front to back. You have the defense, you have the offense, you have the go-to scorers, you got the 4th quarter scoring, you got everything. I think if Donovan Mitchell was on the Celtics this year, they would have won the NBA championship. And there's a lot of arguments that I believe are very valid that the Celtics were Chris Middleton away from not making it to the finals. And I really do think that if the Bucks had Chris Middleton, they would have beaten the Celtics. So I don't think the Celtics are good enough to stand pat and just say, oh, okay, let's not make a big push. And Brad Stevens, he's not Danny Ainge, where Danny Ainge is afraid to pull the trigger, right? You accumulate all these assets and you just kind of sit on it for the next 10 years. And it's like, well, what was the point of getting all those assets for? I could see them actually, Brad Stevens actually making a push if the deal's right. I don't think they're not going to gut their roster. They're not going to do anything crazy. But if the deal is right and you can keep your main components, in Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, if you have to give up Marcus Smart, your two young guys and like a Peyton Pritchard, I think you do it. The draft picks, you don't care about the draft picks. You're trying to compete for championships and your team is young enough. Even if you're trading draft picks that are like 6-7 years out from now, you're likely going to have this team for the next 7 years. Everybody is young enough to where they're all under 30. So you're going to have this team for the long haul. So your draft picks are completely irrelevant if you're the Celtics. Pritchard, again, like I said, is your 8th, 9th guy off the bench. So you're not really losing anything there. JD, he might be a solid guy, but you don't know. He could also, because he's on the Celtics team that's competing for championships, could end up just not developing and just being a guy that sits on the bench. Like we've seen that happen a lot. A player gets drafted, a lot of promise, a lot of hope, a lot of excitement, and then they just don't get the playing time to ever develop. So I just don't think you're losing anything, and you're getting a proven commodity in Donovan Mitchell. But those are my thoughts and opinions, and as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. Do you love this? Do you hate this? Do you think, like, if you're the Celtics, yeah, go get Donovan Mitchell. Give up whatever draft picks you have to give up. If you can, put a package together where you're giving up the two young guys, giving up Pritchard, giving up Marcus Smart. They got, they get a handful of players, which, from Utah side would make a lot of sense because you get all the draft picks. Marcus Smart, you could keep. He's still under 30. He's 28 years old. So you could keep him, have him run with the team. You got some young guys. And if you want, like, let's say you're like, we don't really want Marcus Smart. He's 28. We're trying to rebuild. There are a ton of teams that would take Marcus Smart. Believe me. He would be a hot take on just teams just coming out of the woodworks to trade for him. So you could probably get a first for Marcus Smart. So then that just adds more to your treasure chest, right? It adds more to your assets. I just think however you shake it, it would be a good deal for the Utah Jazz. And then for the Boston Celtics, I think it makes them at least the best team in the East. In my opinion, I think they'd be the best team in the entire league. Because, which starting five would be better than that? You're talking Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Robert Williams. Like, you have everything. You have the grit, you have the scoring, you have the defense, you have the shot blocker, you have the lob threat. You have everything. You have your closers. Like, it's just, that team would be scary. Like, that team really would be scary. And it would just bring them closer to Banner 18, which, as a Laker fan, I hope doesn't happen. But as an NBA fan, I think it would be enjoyable to watch. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. One last little shameless plug is I did start As It Stands Lakers. It is a channel just like this, dedicated to only the Lakers, because the Lakers are my favorite team. And on this channel, As It Stands, I talk about all teams, all sports, stuff like that. We have football season coming up, so I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And I just wanted to make a dedicated channel to the Lakers to give the ins and outs. Now, all the big stuff, all the big news and stuff, I will still post here on this channel. But if you want all the ins and outs and just rumors and theories and just discussions just strictly on the Lakers, link down in the description or in the comment section. Go check out the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.